Stop. God, just riposte and parry, and there's a lot going on. It's a lot to remember.
You could just try to not get hit.
Yeah, what do you think I'm trying to do, Rav'nys? Listen, it's just that I'm trying not to get hit, but I'm also trying to hit you, and the two ideas, I mean, they feel mutually exclusive. It feels like you're telling me to do all these things. It's like a dance. I was never a good dancer, okay? And that's all sword fighting feels like.
It's not dancing.
Oh, yeah, well, all right, I guess, but it feels a lot like it. Like when you step forward, I step back, and I gotta watch your fancy footwork, and one mistake, and I'm dead on the ground, just like my high school prom. Trust me, Rav'nys, this is just like dancing.
Dancing, you have to worry about the other person. You should just be worrying about you right now.
Okay, all right, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't feel... Can I just shoot you? Would that be okay if I just fight you with my crossbow? Like maybe you stood on one side of the Voidfarer and I stood on this side, and maybe you just like rushed at me, but I had like, I don't know, 6 turns or something to just go ahead and get into it.
That doesn't sound very fair.
Well, Rav'nys, is warfare.
Why would I let someone in war do that when I could just beat them up right now?
Yeah, okay, because it's role-play. Rav'nys, do you know what role-playing is?
No.
What nerds do.
All right, but I guess. I just don't feel like I'm good at this. And I mean, I thank you for doing what you're doing, but maybe I should just like, you know... I don't know. Maybe being a fighter isn't in my blood.
I think it's something that you should know if you want to keep doing this.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess I'll just sleep off another concussion. Let's keep going.
The Voidfarer begins maneuvering towards one of these small specks that you see. And it very quickly grows larger and larger until you see that it is this beigeish brown disc in front of you. You see some swirling clouds, but they get darker. And as you approach and the moon kind of rotates, you see that it looks like an entire hemisphere of this moon is shrouded in swirling black-gray clouds. A perpetual storm that covers half of this moon's surface.
Well, that isn't ominous at all.
Mm-hmm. And only to add to the ominousness, I guess, you see the occasional flicker of this purple lightning every now and again within the swirling clouds.
I kind of look back to Val and say, Val, are we going to need to go into that?
Actually, we are heading to a settlement, quite appropriately, called Storm's Edge, which is outside of the raging sandstorm.
Good. Cool. I'm sure that won't come up at all later.
All right, time to move out of here.
All right. Well, let's get going, I guess.
Grab my gear and hop on in.
Yep, get loaded up.
This beast of a machine roars to life with the dull hum and crackle of alchemical energy, and the storm rig lurches forward. You see the storm looming ahead, growing larger and taller as the vehicle accelerates. A dark, imposing wall of swirling clouds so tall you have to crane your neck to make out the top. There's a flash of purple light as arcane lightning crackles within the dark clouds, followed by several more distant flashes and the dull roll of thunder. Wind and dust picks up as you near the edge of this swirling storm, and as you all encroach within about 100 feet, Lugnut pulls a lever and raises a mast with twisted instruments affixed to the top. The storm parts in your path as you reach the edge. The swirling sand and clouds curl around and above the vehicle as it enters, seemingly held back by an invisible dome. And as you all travel onward on this storm rig, the storm closes behind you.
Why did you change your mind?
Remember what I said? It takes to wield one of these. It takes grit, tenacity. That's true. And I think you've proved me you had it, but there's something more. Wielding these comes with a lot of power. I wanted to be sure you would use it right, for the right reasons. And after traveling these few days, how your friends care about you. That one, ready to jump on a bloody fucking dinosaur to save you. Good enough for me.
All right. Well, there you go, Rav'nys. I'm a good person.
Fine. But I am watching you.
Watch all you like. Don't point that thing at me.
Sorry.
Watch your
We
flag
were
lines.
talking. All right, sorry. I got distracted.
And your trigger discipline's terrible. You don't put your flipper on the trigger. Pull it.
Man, there was something weird about her, right?
In what way do you mean?
Like the flesh thing and the...
Oh. Yeah, she's a lich.
Whoa, what?
A lich, yeah.
Oh, I was totally tuning out. You guys were talking about, there was all these names of planets and stuff, and I just... Whoa, that was a lich?
Yes, that was a lich.
I asked a lich for her cookbook.
Yeah, I was surprised.
You in fact did. And luckily it wasn't the one that dines on souls, but you know.
Well, she could have killed Marco. That was scary.
Look, listen, do you realize how much we've just learned? I mean, there's so much knowledge and information here. As a matter of fact, she was a lovely lich. I
guess. That's terrifying. All right.
I mean, that is fair. She could have killed us with a finger poke, but you know.
Yeah. Well, we stuck around there for a real long time. God.
We learned so much, though, about Phlogisterite, about potentially what happened to the Praetorian Empire, the problems that could be.
No, you're making me lose focus again. My eyes are crossing. All right, listen though. I did hear something about Adam, right? How he was looking for the source of the Voidfarer, where it came from?
Yeah, where it was created. And
now, I was always under the impression that it was sort of his ship, like he must have built it or commissioned it or something, but what does that mean? He probably found it then, yeah?
One would think.
16 plus 8 is what I rolled.
How do you want to do this?
Yes!
Oh, sorry, Mia. I woke her up.
You monster.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, fuck. How does she want to do this? She is going to... So she's, like, swinging at it. She, like, misses twice, which makes this, like, all the sweeter. So she, like, hits it. Well, just, like, in the theater of my mind, she does hit it. It's just not, like, doing anything because it's huge. Like, how could she, like, actually, like... whiff. So it doesn't really do anything, but then she sort of sees like the perfect spot, the perfect opportunity, and like with her sword in both hands, she just like plunges it into the thing.
Badass.
Yeah,
so you plunge your sword down into this thing, and the purple glow from passive ability of the sword, just the detection of elithids and elithid-related creatures, being plunged into this thing, it almost glows for a second, a bright pulse. So as you drive your sword in and like just tear through this thing, it's almost like for just an instant, beams of purple light kind of shoot out of it as it just rise and just collapses sideways. And acidic ooze starts kind of oozing out of it and starting eating away at the rock.
Rav'nys is like watching it die. She like has a sort of maniacal grin. Like she's like covered in blood and feeling like pretty good about what she just did.
There's a lurch, and the Voidfarer begins to rise, and you see across the way the giant dwarven Drekar takes off as well. The rune engines, these stone rings floating behind and to either side of the ship, spin up, and the small dwarven ships, the caravels, cruise around it to kind of escort it away. And as both ships lifting off the ground, you see dust kicks up, and the entire town begins to fracture and fissure, and you see the gigantic maw of a creature probably like 100 feet across break the surface and split open a 4-way mouth. A neothalid bigger than any that you've ever seen before bursts out, basically obliterating the entire town, raising up out of the ground. And one of its tentacles shoots out and grabs one of the small dwarven ships and just crushes it.
Ugh.
As the ships are flying away, and Val's like, fuck, Salon, we better put some distance between us and that. And yeah, as you cruise away, you see this thing come out. And that's when you see it kind of turn and look. And you look off the other side and you see the storm rigs driving away. And the worm turns its attention at those vehicles, the 2 storm rigs in lock. And this giant mass begins slowly moving in that direction.
No.
May I cast Sending?
You may.
I'm gonna cast Sending to Locke. Locke, it's Marco. Big, giant, 100-foot wide, town-devouring Neothalid coming for you.
There's a pause, and you just hear in your mind, fuck.
And I just sit down and think, well, it was good knowing him.
Yeah.
Seeing this, Val is going to say, maybe we can buy him some time? And she's going to shout orders to the guns. And shout orders to Salon to kind of turn the Voidfarer broadside. And they unleash cannons at this thing. And it doesn't do anything. All right, another volley then. This giant worm is still beginning to move towards the trails of dust coming from the storm rigs. And another blast of cannon fire goes off. And from this distance, it doesn't look like it's doing shit.
I'm gonna burn my last Sending spell and say, Locke, we can't stop it. Split up, maybe some of you will live. That's the best I got.
There's no response, but you at least are confident that he got the message. Probably more concerned with dealing with the situation rather than answering.
Yeah.
Val calls a command out to the gunners to unleash another desperate volley. And at that point, you notice movement above you. A ship, about the same size of the Voidfarer, suddenly decelerates from spelljamming speed, passing over your heads, heading towards the moon's surface. Its tentacles writhing and squirming, extended forward from its helix shell fuselage, and a lithid nautiloid. The gunners finish loading the cannons, none of the crew seemingly noticing the ship's arrival. 2 more decelerate nearby as well and continue past, following the first. The tentacles of all 3 begin to part, and you see the start of an arcane purple glow beginning to form between them. Then, shroom, a 4th nautiloid appears, but this one mind-boggling gargantuan, larger than the first 3 and the Voidfarer combined, with a keel length easily 10 times that of the Voidfarer, not including its massive undulating tentacles, which on this one are covered in segmented chitinous armor. Its helix shell spiked and twisted with wicked ornamentation. This Elithid dreadnought passes so closely above that the tops of the Voidfarer masts nearly scrape its hull. And still, none of the crew seem to notice, even as they stand in this ship's shadow. Its chitinous tentacles splay out like the smaller ones, and purple energy grows in the space between. A massive beam of purple light erupts from each ship towards the surface, the 3 smaller beams merging with the one larger one, striking the gigantic worm from orbit. The cannons go off at the exact same time, and when the dust clears, the colossal worm has been reduced to a smoldering carcass and crater.
Wow.
The Mind Flayer ships turn and warp away, accelerating to spelljamming speed and vanishing as quickly as they arrived. Val, who still doesn't seem to have noticed the ships, is staring wide-eyed at the destruction. Well, fuck me. 3rd time's a charm, I guess. We must have hit it in just the right spot. The Voidfarer crew laughs and cheers, and it becomes abundantly clear to you that no one aboard the Voidfarer was able to see these ships, except for the 3 of you.
Huh?
Rav'nys will immediately look at Ezrath, white as a sheet, looking at Ezrath, and then looks back to everything.
Ezrath gives you a perplexed expression and glances in the direction you are looking. It appears that not even she could perceive this sudden, elithid presence.
ProjectDerailed.com.